Okay, fine. So, till last class we have seen regarding DC circuits. Okay, so one second. Okay, so in the last class we have seen regarding DC circuits. So different methodologies how to analyze a DC circuit and different theorems we have seen. Okay, so from today we'll start chapter 2, which is basically a single phase AC circuits. Okay, so first of all, how I don't know how many you have registered in Google Classroom. So all of you, please register in Google Classroom. You have to register using your institute mail ID only. Okay, not with your personal mail ID, because all communication and online exam will be conducted through your institute mail ID only. Okay, so only institute mail ID will be accepted in Google Classroom. Okay, so please try to use Google Institute mail ID and join in Google Classroom for all the subjects. Okay, and one more point today, you have triple E class, right? Hello. Yeah, today afternoon I think you are having triple E class. Dr. Aprai used to take. Today sir is on leave, so he will not take that class. Okay. Okay, so today he will not take the class. So he is on leave. Okay. Okay, so coming back to our discussion, so we are going to start single phase AC circuits today, right? So single phase AC circuits. Okay, so in this here you can see after single phase there is something called 1 with a symbol phi. Okay, so the short form for single phase is this one with a phi. We will not call it as phi in electrical terminology. That symbol is called as phase. Okay, so single phase, if I write in words or I simply represent one with that phi, it is called as single phase. Okay, single phase AC circuits. This is part 1 we are going to discuss in AC circuits chapter. Okay, so these are the topics which are going to cover in this part 1. Okay, what is alternating voltage? Okay, so in that we will study mostly on sinusoidal voltages. Okay, how a single phase, basic concept of how to generate a single phase sinusoidal voltage we will discuss, and we will introduce two more elements which are called as capacitor and inductor elements. Okay, after that we will discuss regarding sinusoidal and complex source forcing function. Okay, nothing but sinusoidal voltage if you apply to a circuit, what happens, and a complex source. We'll see what is that complex source mean and why it is required. Right, so we'll see what is your circuit. We'll analyze circuit using sinusoidal source as well as with complex source. Okay, and why we have used complex source, that we'll discuss. Next we will discuss regarding phasor and phase. Any doubt? Right, please switch off your mics first. Okay, right, phasor voltage current relationship for resistor, inductor and capacitor. So what is phasor and what is a VA relationship for these three passive elements we will discuss. And next we will go to Kirchhoff's laws. Kirchhoff's laws we have already discussed in DC circuits. Those are applicable even for AC circuits also. We will see that. And nodal and mesh analysis techniques for AC circuits when your input is AC source voltage and you have resistor and inductor and capacitor. Any combination can be present in your circuit. How to analyze that circuit. And the theorems same, the basic principles of theorems remains the same. That is superposition theorem and Thevenin's theorem we are going to discuss in this part 1. All right, so these are the topics which we are going to cover in this part 1 of single phase AC circuits. Right, so coming to the basic alternating voltage and current. Okay, so what it states is, so basically we are going to discuss deal with sinusoidal voltages and sinusoidal currents. Okay, so sinusoidal voltage also comes under alternating voltage. Okay, so we'll see what is the definition of alternating voltage or current. Okay, a voltage of constant amplitude which continuously varies in magnitude with time and changes its direction periodically is called an alternating voltage. So that means it should have a constant amplitude. Amplitude means it's the maximum value, right? So maximum value or the amplitude is both mean the same. So a constant voltage, constant amplitude, which continuously varies in magnitude with time. That means its magnitude is going to vary with respect to time. At different instance of time, the value of its value is going to vary. Okay, right, with time, and changes its direction periodically. That means it should follow periodicity. It should have a repeated waveform kind of thing. Then only we'll call it as an alternating voltage or current. Okay, so for your understanding, I have given a simple three waveforms which are alternating voltages. So first thing, if you see, you have a sinusoidal alternating voltage. Okay, so it should have an amplitude which is denoted as Vmax. That is the maximum value of this sinusoidal alternating voltage. It has positive and negative half cycle, and it is repeating after time period of t. Okay, so the x-axis is basically time. Okay, one complete cycle. That means the combination of positive and negative half cycles is called as one complete cycle. Okay, so this cycle keeps on repeating. Okay, so then we call it as an alternating voltage sinusoidal waveform. Okay, so it has the periodicity, it has a constant amplitude of Vm, and it is repeating with respect to, it is varying with respect to time. So that's why this sinusoidal waveform comes under alternating voltage waveform. So two more examples I have shown here. Here if you see a triangular waveform, alternating voltage. Okay, this is also the same thing. It will have positive and negative half cycles, and it is repeating with respect to time t. Right. So this is also called as alternating voltage. And the third one is square wave alternating voltage. Right. It has positive and negative half cycles, and the amplitude is V. You can call it as V max or whatever it may be. Right. So it has a constant amplitude, and it is varying with respect to time, and it is repeating with respect to time t. So these three are some examples of alternating voltage waveforms. Okay. So we will mostly concentrate on sinusoidal alternating voltage, and it's how it is used in analyzing your circuits. Because in distribution system or in your home, whatever voltage you are getting is ideally it is expected to be a sinusoidal voltage waveform. So we are discussing regarding, we'll discuss regarding sinusoidal voltage only, right? So before going to the generation of single phase AC voltage, we will briefly go through Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. This you might have already studied, so just I will recap this once. Okay, so Faraday's laws are defined in two stages. One is Faraday's first law, another one is Faraday's second law. I have written wrong here, maybe. Okay, this is second law. So Faraday's first law states that whenever the magnetic flux linking with a circuit or coil changes, an EMF is always induced in it. What it means? When the magnetic flux linking with a circuit or coil changes, that means some flux is produced, and this flux which is linking or cutting some other coil or circuit, okay, and it is varying with respect to time. This magnetic flux is varying with respect to time. Then there is a chance of EMF getting induced in the circuit which is getting cut by this flux. Okay, so Faraday's first law states that whenever the magnetic flux linking with a circuit or coil changes, that means it is changing with respect to time, and EMF is always induced in the coil, right? That's what it states. Faraday's second law, right? It states that the magnitude of the induced EMF is equal to rate of change of flux linkage. Right. So first law states that some magnitude or EMF is going to be induced, and second law states that the magnitude of this induced EMF is equal to the rate of change of flux linkage. Okay. Or in fact, it is proportional to rate of change of flux linkage. Right. So that's what second law states that. We'll quickly go through the explanation regarding this. Okay. So here you can see a circuit This is a bar magnet I have just assumed with North Pole and South Pole, and flux is coming from North Pole, right? It will obviously produce some amount of flux, right? Right. So it's a constant flux. If I keep on varying this, not this bar magnet forward and backward, so that will create a change in the flux, which is linking with the N turn coil shown here. Okay. If I keep on moving this bar magnet forward and backward, so there is a changing flux which will be linking the coil shown here. Okay, right. Suppose a coil of N turns and flux through it changes from initial value of 5 1 Webers to a final value of 5 2 Webers. That means at one instant, let's say the flux flowing into the coil is 5 1 Webers. Unit for flux is Webers, WB. Okay, right. And the final value is, let's say, flux 5 2. So this change is happening in a time period of delta t, change in time period of delta t seconds. Then considering the flux linkage means the product of the number of turns and the flux linked with the coil. So that means usually flux linkage is defined as the number of turns in the coil and the change in flux with respect to time. So that is called as basically flux linkage, right? So the number of turns and the flux linked with the coil. So initially flux linked is N into phi 1 you can consider. Let's say at an instant of time t1, the flux which is passing through that coil, right? It was shown here, right? The flux which is passing through this coil is, let's say, phi 1, and it is linking all the N turns. Then we call initial flux linkage as N into phi 1, right? After time instant, let's say at time instant t2, the flux linkage has changed because I have moved the bar magnet maybe far away from this coil. Okay, so the flux linkage has changed. Maybe it has become phi 2. So at that instant, the flux linkage is N into phi 2. So flux linkage is basically N into the flux passing through the coil. Okay, so the change in flux linkage will be N into phi 2 minus N into phi 1 with respect to time. So according to second law, the induced EMF is equals to N into phi 2 minus phi 1 by delta T, the change in time. Unit is volts or Webers per second, because delta T is in seconds and the change in flux is also in Webers. Right. So unit is Webers per second or volts. So this is from Faraday's second law. Some EMF is induced in this coil, and the magnitude of this induced EMF is given by this expression. Yeah.
As you say that about current.
Yeah.
Electron per unit area. Sir.
Current. Yeah.
Sir, please sir explain about something flux. What is the significance of flux?
Flux. See, flux is basically related to magnetic circuit. Okay, so if you consider a bar magnet, let's say you in the childhood days you might have played with small bar magnets, right? It will have a north and south pole. If you see, it will have a north pole and south pole, and the flux always comes out of north pole and flows through the air if nothing is connected, and it will complete its circuit through south pole. So flux is always from it comes out of north pole. Okay, so if you consider this is called as a bar magnet. Okay, this is bar magnet, which is a permanent magnet. Permanent magnet means it's a material, so without any circuit connected also some flux will keep on coming out of it. Okay, this is called as a bar magnet. Okay, electromagnet is different. Okay, by sending some amount of current or making some coil, we will generate that electromagnet. So this is a bar magnet where the flux is coming out of this coil. The flux is usually there's a magnetic force of lines. Okay, how current is flowing in a magnetic circuit, flux is flowing. Okay, so in electrical circuit, you say, if you say current, in a magnetic circuit it is called as a flux. Okay, so both are identical. Okay, right. So this flux unit is basically called as Webers. WB is the short form to represent this flux. Okay, so let's say if this bar magnet is very close to this coil, the amount of flux which is coming out of this coil is always constant. But when I make it very close to the coil, the flux which is touching or passing through this cross sectional area or cutting this coil is going to be more. When I move this bar magnet far away from this one, obviously the flux which is cutting this coil will be reduced. Okay, so according to Faraday's second law or first law, if you consider when there is a changing flux which is linking the coil, an EMF can be induced in the coil. Okay, the coil is an electrical circuit. This bar magnet is a magnetic circuit. So that change in flux is required for current to be generated in this electrical circuit. Okay. So first law states that if there is a changing flux, some EMF is going to be induced, and if the circuit is closed, that EMF will result in current to flow. That's what it states. How much is the EMF induced? That will depend upon Faraday's second law. Okay, so it states that second law states that the induced EMF is equal to the rate of change of flux linkage. Okay, rate of change of flux linkage and flux passing. The difference between these two is nothing but the number of turns. Flux passing through the coil is phi1 at instant t1, and if you multiply that with number of turns, I can design a coil of 10 turns, 20 turns, or whatever it may be. So if I consider n as my number of turns in the coil, so that n into this flux phi1 is called as initial flux linking the coil at time instant t1, right? So if you consider some other time instant, that flux will be varying. Why means I am moving the bar away from the coil in the present circuit. Okay, so obviously phi2 will be something less than that if I am moving bar away from it. If I come very close to it, it may increase, right? So this change in flux, second law states that the change in flux equals to the induced EMF is equal to rate of change of flux, the change in flux with respect to time. So that's what is EMF induced in this coil is proportional to, right? So that's why this EMF is given by this expression. If you express this in the differential form, we'll see what is that in next slide. Did you get some idea regarding this flux?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So flux is similar
Yes,
to
sir.
current in an electrical circuit. In magnetic circuit, it is only the flux which is equal to, which is analogous, which is similar to current in an electrical circuit. Magnetic circuit, you talk about flux. In electrical circuit, you talk about current. Okay, right. So the same expression, if you write in differential form, it is E is equals to n into d phi by dt. So differential means nothing but the change in flux with respect to change in time. Okay, so E is equals to n into d phi by dt volts. This is the EMF induced in the coil of n turns shown in the figure. Okay, so there is one more law called as Lenz's law. Okay, so Lenz's law, what it states that to every action there should be an equal and opposite reaction. So some sort of similar to that, if you see here, it states that the electromagnetically induced EMF or current. That means we have seen there is an EMF induced in it. Okay, so if the circuit is closed, this EMF will force some current to flow in the circuit. Okay, it states that the electromagnetically induced current always flows in such a direction that the action of the magnetic flux set up by it tends to oppose the very cause which produces it. That means the EMF induced in the coil, if the circuit is closed, some current will flow through that. That current will again produce some amount of flux. Okay, whenever current is flowing through the coil, some flux is always produced. That is called as electromagnet. Okay, right. So since EMF is induced and the circuit is closed, some current is flowing, that current will produce some amount of flux, and this flux will try to oppose the main flux. That's what it states. Lenz's law states that the flux which was generated by electromagnetically induced EMF, right, will try to oppose the main flux, because of which it was produced, it will try to oppose that. Okay, that's what Lenz's law states. Okay, so this is what physically happening. If you want to represent that in mathematically, you have to place a minus sign. So Lenz's law states that since it is opposing, the EMF and the current produced by this EMF is trying to oppose the main flux. So if you consider the main flux as one force, so this force will be trying to oppose that flows. That means the main flux and the flux which was produced by this are going to oppose each other. That's why you will have minus sign in the final expression. E is equals to minus n d phi by dt. Okay, that opposition you can is happening physically, but if you want to represent mathematically, you should have a minus sign. Okay, so E is equals to minus n d phi by dt. So that's what from Faraday's law and Lenz's law, this is the EMF expression which is generally induced when a time varying flux is linking a closed circuit. Okay, right. So now getting this basic information or idea regarding Faraday's laws. So now we will see how a voltage is generated in a single phase AC voltage is generated. Okay, this is some basic explanation how the voltage is generated. Okay, right. So in a generator, the concept is same, but it will be a little bit different. Okay, so generator is one which will generate voltage, right? So even in that case, this concept remains the same, but there its complexity will be more number of windings will be there. Okay, so let's see some basic explanation regarding how a single phase AC voltage is generated in a coil. Right. So for this, as you can see in this figure, I have considered a coil of length L and width W. Right. So these are the dimensions of the coil, and this coil is placed in a magnetic field of strength B. Okay. B is called as magnetic field strength or magnetic flux density. That means flux per unit area. Okay. If you say current is flowing through particular cross section of the air, current density is current per unit area. That means a square, meter square or centimeter square or millimeter square, whatever maybe. So current per unit cross sectional area. Similar to that, flux per unit cross sectional area is called as flux density. Right. So it could be Webers per meter square or Webers per centimeter square or whatever it may be. Right. Since we have assumed L and width W in meters, so B is Webers per meter square. This is called as flux density. So that means flux per unit cross sectional area. Okay. So that we have assumed to be B. Okay. So if you see here, these red color lines which I have drawn here is called as flux density. That means the flux is flowing from left to right. Right. Okay. So it's passing through some cross section area. Okay. It is passing through from left to right through a cross sectional area. Okay, so I have considered a coil of this dimension, and I am bringing that coil and placing in perpendicular to the flux direction. Let's say, okay, I am trying to place it at the center of this flux density vector, right? And I am placing it perpendicularly. Let's say, okay, and I am trying to rotate this coil in anti-clockwise direction, right? If you see here, these arrow marks are shown here, right? So that means it is flowing in anti-clockwise direction. Why I need to do this? Because the flux phi is constant. Flux per unit area B is assumed to be constant, and if I don't rotate it, there is no changing flux which is linking the coil, right? For EMF to be induced in a coil, there should be a changing flux which needs to be cut by the coil, right? So for that, I can approach two methods. One, I should vary this flux B with respect to time, or I should vary the coil. It should be rotating, right? Then only when the coil is keeping on rotating at different instants, this flux, the coil cuts this flux at different values. Okay, so to generate a changing flux linking with the coil, I need to make some rotational force on the coil. Okay, let's say I started rotating in the anti-clockwise direction with a speed of omega radians per second. You know omega, right? Omega is in radians per second. You have studied this or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So omega stands for radians per second. That means it's an angular motion with one axis reference frame. So it keeps on rotating. I have considered anti-clockwise direction. So it is rotating with omega radians per second, and it is going to cut the flux B, flux density B. Okay, right. So So we'll see how the voltage is generated, what is the expression for the voltage generated in this coil. The amount of flux passing through the loop area. So if you consider this L into W as the loop area, the amount of flux passing through this loop area is given by phi is equals to B into A. B is flux density phi by A, so phi is equals to B into A, area of cross section of the coil. Okay, right. This is basically a dot product because these all are vectors. Okay, right. And the plane of the coil is perpendicular to B. Okay, so that means I am considering an instant time t where the plane, that means this coil is exactly perpendicular to the flux coming from left to right. Okay, so I have placed a coil at instant time t is equals to 0. I assumed that the coil is exactly perpendicular to the flux density B. So at that instant, or we can see the same thing in a different way. The normal drawn to the plane of the coil is in the same direction of the flux field strength vector. That means the normal, that means the perpendicular which was drawn to the plane of the coil is in phase with the flux density vector. That means B and A are assumed to be in the same direction. Okay. A is a normal which is drawn to the plane of the coil. Okay. So at that instant, if you see phi is equals to dot product of B into A, so B into A into cos of omega t, theta is equals to omega t is equals to 1, because at that instant when I have considered the plane of the coil is exactly perpendicular to the flux density vector B, the phase angle between the normal drawn to the plane of the coil and the flux density B is equals to 0. So cos of omega t, so cos of 0 is equals to 1. So phi is equals to B into A. Okay, that is one instant we have started our analysis process to find sine wave, to find the generated voltage. Okay, so that means this expression which was shown at the bottom of the slide is the instant when your phi or theta is equals to 0, right? So that means theta is equals to, theta is the angle between B and A, and A is exactly in phase with this B vector. So the angle between those two is equals to 0, cos 0 is equals to 1. Okay, so at that instant the flux phi is equals to B into A. After 90 degrees, let's say, that means the coil has rotated after 90 degrees. At that instant, this A will be exactly 90 degrees perpendicular to this flux density B. So at that instant, what happens? Your
Flux
phase
is 0.
angle omega, yeah. So flux will be 0. That means B into A into cos of theta. Theta is equals to omega t, and omega t is equals to 90 degrees. Cos 90 will be equals to 0. So flux will be equals to 0. Is it clear? So that means since the coil is not stationary, it keeps on rotating with respect to time in the anti-clockwise direction with omega radians per second. At different instants of time, different magnitudes of flux is linking with this coil. And if you start analyzing your generating your expression for the sinusoidal voltage, at one instant, the flux density vector B and the normal drawn to the plane of the coil are in phase. So theta is equals to 0. Then phi is equals to B into A, cos 0 is equals to 1. After 90 degrees of the rotation of your coil, it will be cos 90. Cos 90 is equals to 0. So it will become phi will be equals to 0. Okay. So you can write this expression in this format. Phi is equals to B into A into cos of theta. Theta is equals to omega t. This is the general expression which we are getting for all instants of time. Right. Theta is equals to omega t. B is constant. Flux density. A is the area of cross section of the coil. That is also constant. And phi is cos of omega t. Omega is the speed with which your coil is rotating. That is also constant. And the time t is the one which is varying. So at different instants of time, this is your final expression. Phi is equals to B into A into cos of theta. Right. So this is your phi. Right. So if you consider that this is, so that this is your coil. If you see here, this is your length L and this is your W and omega rotating, and you have got this expression phi is equals to B into A into cos of omega t, omega into t. Right. So now we have to know what is the direction of the current. Okay, since there is a change in flux, an EMF will be induced, and if the circuit is closed, that EMF will be trying to force some current to flow in the coil. Is it clear? So changing flux is there. With respect to time, the flux linking the coil is going to change because phi is equals to B into A into cos of omega t, and T is changing. Right. Since if the circuit is closed, some current will flow through the coil, and we have to know what is the direction of the current. Okay. So to find the direction of the current, this is called as Fleming's right hand rule. You have studied this or not?
Studied
Yes,
this,
sir.
Yeah. So
We studied thumb rule.
yeah, thumb rule, and this is also right hand rule. Okay, both are there. Both are almost the same. Okay, there you will have only two things. One is direction of the flux and direction of current alone. Here, right hand rule, there are three coordinates. Okay, so you have to place your right hand with your thumb, forefinger, and middle finger mutually perpendicular to each other in this fashion. Right. So maybe something like this. All three are perpendicular to each other. Okay. So let's say this forefinger, B is forefinger. Okay. And this is your middle finger. And this thumb indicates this. Okay. So all these three are mutually perpendicular to each other. Okay. Right. In that position, if your flux, that means B, indicates your forefinger, and your thumb indicates the direction of the rotation of the coil which you have chosen. Okay, so in this, the coil is rotating in this direction, anti-clockwise direction. So try to place your middle finger forward and thumb perpendicular to that. Then this is forefinger. Okay, so your middle finger will indicate the direction of the current flowing in the coil. So you can place all the three fingers perpendicular to each other and check what is the direction of the current. Can anyone say what is the direction of the current in this coil? This coil has two conductors. One is conductor A, another one is conductor B, that I have denoted here. Okay, so what is the direction of the current in conductor A? It is upwards or downwards? Can anyone say?
downwards, sir.
Conductor A, it is upwards or downwards? You try to place all the three fingers perpendicular to each other and check. Middle finger indicates the direction of the current. Thumb indicates the direction of the motion of the coil. That means you have chosen in the anti-clockwise direction. And the forefinger shows the direction of the flux. Those are red color lines already shown in the figure. Okay, so try to see this. So if you have to place all these three in this perpendicular direction. Okay, so this one, this forefinger indicates your flux. Okay, did anyone able to find out?
Sir, getting upwards, sir.
Sir, from
Yeah.
A to B.
Yeah, so yeah, it's upward in conductor A. It
Yes,
will
sir,
be
upward in
upwards in
conductor and
conductor. Yeah, downward in conductor B. Okay, so if you have doubt, you please check that. So you will find that because your conductor A is coming out of the plane, so your thumb should be positioned in such direction. Okay, so thumb should be positioned such a way that it is coming out of the plane, and your forefinger should be pointing your red color lines, which is flux density B here, and your middle finger indicates the direction of the current flowing in the conductor A. So it will be upwards. So current will be flowing upwards in this direction from top to bottom. Okay. So current is flowing from bottom to top in conductor A and top to bottom in conductor B. That means it is flowing in this direction, going in this fashion, and coming out of this. And circuit is closed, it is flowing in this fashion.
Sir,
Right.
that plus minus sign, is it
Yeah,
right
I'll
or
come to,
wrong?
I'll come to that. I will come to that. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
so current in the conductor A is upwards and current in the conductor B is downwards. So now where to place this plus and minus signs? So what do you feel? The positive and negative polarities which I have shown is correct or wrong?
Sir, seeing the
Wrong.
resistance part, it is correct, but seeing the upper part, it's like okay, it might be correct because it just opposes EMF, opposes the change. So EMF should be opposite side.
Okay.
Okay.
So here what you have to think is we are talking about a generating voltage. So that means this is a generator. If you consider in a DC circuit, it is the polarity, if you talk, it is like a battery. Okay. So battery plus terminal is B. Why means from where the battery plus terminal current will come out. Okay. Right. So the same scenario applies here. This is a generating part. This is internal part. This is a voltage source. If you consider this entire thing as a voltage source, this is how actually voltage is generated in a generating station. Okay. But at the end, you will give a polarity with plus and minus sign, indicating that from plus current is coming out. Okay. So this entire thing with coil and the flux and the rotation is actually within the generator, and at the output of the generator terminals you will indicate plus and minus signs, which means that current is coming from the plus terminal, and that will exactly match with your circuit analysis. In circuit analysis, current will come out of the positive terminal from a source and it will flow into your external circuit. So that's what is happening. So that means these positive and negative signs are correctly indicated here. So because this is a generator, if you see an independent voltage source in DC circuits, I have given plus and minus. So what is there within that independent source? It is this one, right? Okay, that is DC source, this is AC source. Okay, so within the AC source, this entire circuit, this coil, rotation, everything is going to happen. But at the end, you will give a positive and negative terminals, which means polarity, which means the current is, this potential is high with respect to this potential. Okay, right. So in other words, if you see the charge or current or the flow of electrons is from positive terminal to negative terminal external to the source. This is external to the source, right? Resistor is one which is connected in the circuit, which is external to the source. So current is flowing from positive terminal to negative terminal external to the source. If you compare with your DC circuit also, this is the same thing. But within the source, current is actually flowing from negative terminal to positive terminal, right? That is how we indicate actually. Actually, current is flowing in this fashion only, completing a loop, and it's flowing in this. We are considering this part as source and giving some polarity positive and negative, and this is considered as a circuit and giving polarity positive and negative, and current flows from positive terminal to negative terminal within the circuit external to the source. Clear? Right. So for all circuits, through conducting wires and all the elements whichever is connected in your circuit, current will flow from positive terminal to negative terminal in the circuit. But within the source, current is actually flowing from negative terminal to positive terminal. Don't get confused. When I say source, positive and negative are indicated, and current will be flowing from the positive terminal out into the circuit. Right. So that's the same thing which was shown here also. Clear? So that's why positive and negative terminals are indicated in this fashion. Okay. Right. So at any instant, the flux linking with, if you consider one coil, it is B into A into cos of theta. Theta is nothing but omega t. For an n-turn coil, that means in the figure I have shown only one turn coil. If I have n number of turns, okay, then the expression will be, flux linkage will be N into B into A into cos of omega t. Right. N is constant, V is constant, the area of cross section is constant, and cos of omega t is 1, which is varying with respect to time. Okay, t is varying, cos of omega t varies. Right. So there is a good chance that EMF can be induced because flux is varying with respect to time, and the flux linkage is varying with respect to time. If you give, try to write an expression for this induced EMF, E is equals to minus d phi b by dt. Phi b is the flux linkage. So n into b into n to cos of omega t with respect to dt. So you will get cos of derivative of cos omega t becomes minus sign. So minus into minus becomes plus. So it will be of this format. N into b into a into omega into sine of omega t. All these are constants. N is fixed, B is fixed, area of cross section is fixed, omega, the speed with which your coil is rotating, is also fixed. So these all are constants. So if you represent all these constants with some variable E naught, that is called the maximum value. So E is equals to E naught into sine of omega t. Right. So this is how a single phase AC voltage is generated. The basic concept of single phase AC voltage generation, which is a sinusoidal alternating voltage. Okay. If you consider at different instants of time and try to plot the waveform, you will get E is equals to E naught into sine of omega t. Right. So quickly we'll go through this. At time t is equals to 0, I told this is your flux B vector flowing from left to right, and this is your coil which is rotating in anti-clockwise direction. This is top view basically. We are seeing from the top. Okay, A is a conductor standing here and B is a conductor standing here. At the instant when the coil, that means the normal drawn to the plane of the coil and the flux density vector B are in phase, then omega t is equals to 0. That means theta is equals to 0. So sine omega t is equals to 0. So E is equals to 0. When the coil has rotated in this fashion, that means it is lying in this way. Then the normal drawn to the plane of the coil will be this one, A vector, and the angle between A and B is 90 degrees. So sine omega t is equals to 1 and E equal to E naught. That is the maximum value. So at 90 degrees you will have the maximum value. Similarly at 180 you will have again 0 value, right? At 270 you will have minus E, so that is this point. When 360 degrees you have rotated, again it will become 0, right? So that means the one complete rotation of your coil 360 degrees is converted into equivalent time, which is the total time period t, and at 4 instants you have t by 4, t by 2 and 3 into t by 4. Okay, this is the waveform or the expression for the generated voltage. Clear? So I hope you understand. This is the basic information how the voltage is generated. Okay, so this is the expression for a sinusoidal voltage which we have generated with a simple coil placed in a magnetic flux of flux density B, and the coil is made to rotate with an angular velocity of omega radians per second. In that scenario you can get this kind of expression and this kind of voltage waveform generated. Clear? So having seen that we have generated an alternating voltage, so now we will see what are the characteristics of a sinusoidal voltage. Okay, characteristics means the basic terminology and the basic expression and what is frequency, what is time period. These terms we will try to understand. Okay, so we have seen the voltage which was generated is V of t is equals to Vm into sine of omega t. Okay, here Vm is called the maximum value or amplitude. Both mean the same. Amplitude or the maximum value, Vm. And sine of omega t. This omega t is called as augment, right? Omega t is called as augment, right? And the unit for omega is angular frequency, and the unit, it is called as omega, and the unit is radians per second. This symbol denotes omega. We call it as omega, and the unit is radians per second. Okay, how many radians it has covered in a duration of 1 second, right? Omega is called as radian frequency or angular frequency, right? So one complete revolution is actually 360 degrees. In radians we will call it as 2 pi radians. Is it clear? So 2 pi radians indicates one complete 360 degrees of rotation of the coil, right? Okay, so if you draw the waveform for the voltage which you have generated with omega t as your x-axis, omega is in radians per second and time t is in seconds, so total omega t unit will be radians. Okay, so at pi by 2 you have the maximum value Vm, at 3 pi by 2 you have the negative max, and at pi you have 0 and 2 pi you have 0. So this is a sinusoidal voltage waveform which was generated. Okay, so if you talk about the terminologies, omega is called the radian frequency, unit is radians per second, and capital T is called the time period. Okay, so this is drawn with respect to omega t. If you draw with respect to time t, this is the same waveform, right? Capital T indicates the total time period, and small t indicates at different instants of time, right? So in a period of t, okay, in a period of t, it must execute 1 by t periods per second. So what it means is, in 1 second, it is going, if the period of the sinusoidal waveform what you have generated, period means this entire positive and negative half cycles together is called as period. Okay, so if t indicates one period, then based on the speed with which your rotation is going to happen, 1 by t periods will be generated in each second. Okay, so that means that is called as frequency. F is equals to 1 by t hertz. Okay, F is equals to 1 by t. You know this, na? Frequency F is equals to 1 by t.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So F is called as frequency, and it is unit is cycles per second or hertz, and F is equals to 1 by total time period. Okay, right. So if you have time period of, let's say, 20 milliseconds, so 1 by 20 milliseconds will be 50, so F will be equals to 50. So in India, the frequency is usually, ideally, it needs to be maintained at 50 hertz. Okay, right. So in India, frequency is 50 hertz, but in some countries it may vary. In US, it is 60 hertz, but in India we are following 50 hertz frequency, right? So omega t is equals to t 2 pi, and omega is equals to 2 into pi into f, right? Remember, the unit for omega is radians per second, the unit for time is seconds, omega t will be, unit is radians. Okay, right. So we have seen what is a sinusoidal voltage waveform, what is called as amplitude, what is called as time period, what is called as frequency, what omega stands for. Okay, how the physical rotation of coil, which is omega radians per second, is converted into an equivalent sinusoidal waveform, which is a function of time, right? Because of the physical rotation of the coil, only we have generated a voltage waveform which is varying with respect to time, right? So the previous one, V is equals to Vm sin omega t, is where the phase angle was not given. This is a more general form where V of t is equals to Vm into sin of omega t plus theta. So this theta is called as phase angle. So what it means is, so to understand that, we will consider two sinusoidal voltage waveforms. One is Vm sin of omega t plus theta, and another one is Vm sin of omega t, as shown in figure. If you see here, this is Vm sin of omega t, green color line. If you want Vm sin of omega t plus theta, so theta by theta degrees, we should shift your sinusoidal waveform in the forward direction. That means in this fashion. Right. So this red color line, red color waveform shows Vm sin of omega t plus theta. Green color line, Vm sin of omega t plus 0 degrees, or Vm sin of omega t. So the phase difference between these two is theta radians. Okay, right. So how to draw the waveform for this? One will be leading, another one will be lagging. So what we can say? We can say that Vm sin of omega t plus theta is leading Vm sin of omega t by theta radians. Correct. We can also say that Vm sin of omega t is lagging Vm sin of omega t plus theta by theta radians. Both are correct. Okay. So what is this lagging and leading means? If your one waveform is ahead of the another waveform, then we will call it as the first one is leading with respect to the second one. Right. If you see here, the red color waveform Vm sin of omega t plus theta is leading this Vm sin of omega t by theta radians. So this waveform, red color waveform, is leading the green color waveform Vm sin of omega t by theta radians. We can say in the other way that Vm sin of omega t is lagging Vm sin of omega t plus theta by theta radians. Both are correct. Okay. So lagging and leading terminologies come when we compare two waveforms. Okay. Right. So when we can say one fellow is leading with respect to other one, or we can say the second one is lagging with respect to the first one. Okay. So when you say lagging and leading, you should be clear with your theta angle. Okay. So next question comes when we have to compare two waveforms. Okay. So in the figure shown, the two sinusoidal waveforms are said to be out of phase. That means they are not in phase. They have a phase difference of theta radians. Okay. They have a phase difference of theta radians. That's why they are said to be out of phase. Okay. So if you want to compare two waveforms, what are the basic rules first you should satisfy before you compare? Okay. So that is given here. Two sinusoidal waveforms whose phases are to be compared. If you want to compare the two waveforms, phase angles, the following three conditions should be satisfied. Then only you have to start your comparison. Okay. The first thing is both be written in sine wave or cosine waveform. That means the two waveforms which you want to compare, both should be written in sine function or as a cosine function. That is the first thing you have to do. Next, both should have positive amplitude. That means this Vm should be a positive value. Okay. If Vm is equals to 5, the second one maybe Vm is equals to 10, but it should be a positive value. You can't compare two opposite waveforms. Okay. One is with positive sign, another with negative sign. Next one is each should have the same frequency. That means the frequency f of both the waveforms should be same. Okay. F is equals to 1 by t. So that means the time period for both the waveforms which we want to compare should be same. Then only you can compare. So that means these three conditions should be satisfied. Then only you can start comparison and say that the phase angle difference between these two waveforms is, let's say, 5. Okay. Right. So to compare, you should express both the waveforms in sine function or cosine function. Both the amplitude should be positive. Okay. And next, both should have the same frequency. Then only you can start comparison and find the phase difference between the two waveforms. Okay. So let's see some small example. Okay. So in electrical engineering, the phase angle is commonly given in degrees rather than in radians. If you see here, what is the unit for omega t? Unit for omega t.
Radian or degree? Radian or degree?
Radian or degree?
Okay, wait. Okay. Omega is in radians per second and time t is in seconds. So the unit for omega t is radians. Okay. Unit for omega t is radians. So theta should also be expressed in radians. Okay. So that is, you can add only two similar quantities. Okay. This is radians unit. So theta should also be expressed in radians. Then only you can add up these two. Okay. Otherwise you can't add. So if one is in radians, you have to convert the other one also in radians. That is the generally in mathematical form. That is the scenario. Okay. But if you, so this is what it is written here. In electrical engineering, the phase angle is commonly given in degrees rather than in radians. So what it means is, this is how a mathematical expression should be expressed. This is omega into t radians, and this also should be in radians. Okay. But in electrical engineering, usually what they will do is, this should be expressed in radians, they will simply express in degrees. Okay. Usually they will not express in radians, they will express only in degrees. Okay, right. So that means they are adding degrees to or subtracting degrees with radians. Okay, this is not, this should not be correct. Okay, but usually they will express only in this format. But if you are asked to find out the value of v at one specific instant of time, then you have to convert both into degrees. Is it clear? Right. If I ask you to find out v of t, where t is equals to, let's say, 3 milliseconds, find out the voltage at 3 milliseconds. It's a waveform which is varying with respect to time. So at 3 milliseconds, it might have some value. At 5 milliseconds, it might have some other value. Okay. So how to find out the value? If this is your expression, you have to convert this also into degrees. Omega t, which is usually radians, you have to convert into degrees. Then only you can add up these two or subtract these two and find out the value of v of t at that particular instant of time. Okay. If you see here, in evaluating this above expression, that means this expression at a specific instant of time, let's say t is equals to 10 power minus 4. That means it is something like 0.1 milliseconds. Okay, at 0.1 milliseconds, I am trying to I am asking you what is the value of v. Okay, so how you have to do? You have to convert both into degrees. So 2 into pi into 1000 into t, you have to convert into degrees. That means t is 10 power minus 4. If you multiply, it will become 0.2 pi radians. Okay, this should be expressed as 36 degrees. Okay, 0.2 into pi radians is equivalent to 36 degrees. You know the conversion from radians to degrees, right?
Yes, sir.
1 degree is equals to pi by 180 radians. Okay, 1 degree is equals to pi by 180 radians, or 180 degrees is equals to pi radians. Okay, so 180 degrees corresponds to pi radians. Here we have 0.2 pi radians. Okay, so it will be equals to 36 degrees. Right, so you have to convert that into 36 degrees and then subtract 30 degrees from that, and then you can find out the value of v straight away. So that is 100 into sine of 6 degrees. So whatever value you get, that is the value of v at that instant of time. Clear? So in electrical engineering, sinusoidal waveforms, you have to, if you want to find out a specific instant of time, you have to convert everything into degrees, radians into degrees, and then only you can add or subtract the phase angle to that and find the value of v at specific instant of time. Because it's a repeated waveform, every 360 degrees it keeps on repeating. So the maximum degrees what you can get is only 360. So if you convert everything into 360 in the form of degrees, it will be easy to solve. Clear? So yeah, so the sine and cosine waveforms are essentially the same functions, but with a 90 degrees phase shift. Okay, sine function and cosine function both are sinusoidal quantities only. Only thing is there will be a phase angle difference or a phase shift of 90 degrees. That means theta is equals to 90 degrees. That is going to exist between the two. That is the only difference. Both are sinusoidal functions or cosine functions. Okay, right. So here I have given you an example. If V1 is equals to Vm1 into cos of 5t plus 10 degrees, and V2 is equals to Vm2 into sine of 5t minus 30 degrees, find the phase angle difference between V1 and V2. That is the question.
130 degree.
130 degrees. Okay, straight away you have told. First of all, to find the phase angle difference, the three conditions I have told that you have to check whether they are satisfied or not. Okay, if you see V1 and V2, amplitudes are positive. Considering V1, Vm1 and Vm2 are positive values, so amplitudes are positive. That is fine. Next is frequency is same or not. You have to see what is the frequency here. Omega is equals to 5, right? So the frequency here is 5 and here also it is 5. Okay, so the frequency remains same. Omega t is same here and omega t is same here, so the frequency of remains the same. So two conditions are satisfied. The third condition is both should be expressed either in sine or cosine. Okay, you have to do that, then only you can find the phase angle difference between these two. Okay, so first you have to convert any one of them into equivalent other form. Okay, right. So if you see here, I have tried to convert this cos into equivalent sine format. Okay, I have clearly given the steps. Maybe you might have knowledge to directly convert. Okay, so you can do that, or you add plus 90 and minus 90 and apply this thing. Cos of 90 minus theta. Cos of 90 minus theta will become sine theta. 90 minus is positive, so it will become sine of 5t plus 100 degrees. Right. Okay. So this is V1 and this is V2. What is the phase angle difference between these two? So one is plus 100 and the one is minus 30. So therefore the phase angle difference is 130 degrees. So which one is leading? So V1 is leading V2 by 130 degrees. Okay. Or V1 is lagging V2 by 230 degrees. Right. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this you might have already studied, but I want to give you a brief idea. So first thing is you have to convert both into a same function, whether sine or cosine. Both should have the same frequency. That means omega t should be same in both the cases, and both should be positive. Okay, then only you can compare the phase angles between the two. Okay, so I have converted that and I have found out the phase angle difference is 130 degrees and V1 leads V2 by 130 degrees. Okay, so now try to solve this. I am asking you find the angle by which I1 lags V1. Okay, so I have given I1 in terms of sine function and V1 in terms of cosine function. So convert both into one function
240
and
degree.
then how much?
240 degree.
240 degrees. Okay, let's see whether it's right or wrong. Okay, did anyone get any other answer?
220 degrees.
220. Okay, let's see that. I am specifically asking not the phase angle. Now I am asking what is the I1 lags V1? What is the angle by which I1 lags V1? Okay, so it could be positive or negative. Okay, let's see that. Right, how to proceed? So I am trying to convert the sine function I1 into cosine. Okay, so I have added plus 90 and minus 90 and except 90 everything I brought into one thing. Okay, this one it is become minus 60. Right, so if you see here I1 is equals to 1.4 into cos of 120 pi into t minus 160 degrees. This is what I got. Sine of 90 plus theta is cos theta. 90 plus is positive, so this remains positive. So this minus 160 remains as it is. Okay, so if you see here both are in cosine function. I1 is in cosine and V1 is also in cosine. Right, the phase angle difference between those two you have to check. Phase angle difference you can say straight away it is 120 degrees difference in phase angle. But in my question I have asked you I1 lags V1. What is the angle by which I1 lags V1? Okay, so that is plus 120 degrees. I1 lags V1 by 120 degrees. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, because V1 is at minus 70 and see V1 is at minus 40 and I1 is minus 160. Okay, so actually V1 is ahead of I1. That means V1 is in the ahead of I1. Okay, the phase angle difference is 120 degrees and I1 is lagging V1 by 120 degrees. Okay. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so next class is also FES only, so you can take a break of 10 minutes. Then we will come and join. Right. So then we will start again discussing. So it's almost 11:25, 11:15. So we'll meet at 11:25 or 11:30. Okay. So at 11:30 we will meet for further discussion. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Rajan Dwivedi, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem sheet you sent, sir, that sixth question I have doubt, sir.
Which one? First
Sir,
question.
sixth question. The sheet, sir. DC circuit sheet.
DC circuit sheet. Okay.
Sir, that sixth question, sir.
What is that question? I forgot. Anyway, I will open it. Wait.
Sir, using mesh analysis, we need to find the V3 circuit. V3 in the circuit shown below.
1 second. I will open that document first. Then only I will have idea. Okay. I will open it. Wait.